When a senior member of the royal family vanishes from a major public event, the British press does not just shrug and move on. And honestly, neither do I. Something about empty seats at royal ceremonies always feels like it carries more weight than anyone in the palace is willing to admit. So when Prince Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh, was suddenly absent from not just one but multiple high-profile royal engagements in early 2026, the questions started piling up faster than palace officials could answer them. And here is the thing, according to reports, the explanations that followed were perfectly reasonable on the surface, but the timing of everything, that is where it gets genuinely interesting. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to have a very different picture of what is actually happening behind those palace walls right now. According to reports, Prince Edward was absent from the Queen Elizabeth Prizes for Education ceremony in late February 2026, an event that was notable for being the largest gathering of senior royals since the dramatic stripping of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor's titles at the end of 2025. Think about that for a second. The biggest royal gathering in recent memory, and King Charles's only remaining brother was nowhere in the building. King Charles was there. Queen Camilla was there. Princess Anne was there. But Edward, sources claim he had been dealing with a cold and chose to sit this one out. And look, I want to be fair here, getting a cold is not exactly a conspiracy. I have called in sick for far less, and nobody wrote a news segment about it. But here is what makes this particular absence stand out. It came right on the heels of the most turbulent stretch the British monarchy has experienced in years, and it followed a pattern that royal watchers have quietly been flagging for weeks. Just days after missing that ceremony, Edward was photographed looking completely fine at a National Youth Theatre event in London. No coughs, no visible exhaustion, nothing. One day he is too unwell for a major royal ceremony, and the next he is out supporting the arts like nothing ever happened. I am not saying anything is being hidden. I am just saying that is a very fast recovery, even by royal standards. Now here is where the story gets genuinely layered. Earlier in February, according to multiple reports, Prince Edward had actually been in Italy attending the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Paralympic Games in his capacity as patron of the British Paralympic Association. He was photographed cheering on Paralympics GB athletes, meeting support staff, and representing the royal family with what sources describe as real enthusiasm. So this was not a man who was retreating from public life entirely. This was a man who showed up for the Paralympics in Italy and then, within weeks, reportedly pulled back from a significant domestic ceremony. That contrast is what keeps pulling my attention. And then came Commonwealth Day in March 2026. Once again, according to Palace Communications, both Prince Edward and his wife Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, were absent from the Commonwealth Day Service of celebration. This time the explanation was actually quite wholesome. They were back in Italy for the Winter Paralympic Games, continuing to support British athletes. King Charles even publicly sent birthday wishes to Edward on the day, since the Duke turned 62 on Commonwealth Day itself. That is genuinely sweet, and honestly, if I were turning 62 and had the option of watching elite Paralympic athletes or sitting through a formal church service, I know which one I am picking. But here is what I think a lot of coverage is missing. These absences are not happening in isolation. They are happening against a backdrop where the royal family is already under enormous pressure to project stability and unity. King Charles is managing his own health situation. Princess Catherine has had her own well-documented recovery journey. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor is entirely out of the picture after losing his royal titles. And now, according to sources, even the palace's internal scheduling protocols are being quietly adjusted to account for which senior royals are available at any given moment. What some commentators are calling an informal but very real reshuffling of the working royal lineup. Think about that for a moment. The monarchy, at its core, runs on presence. It runs on showing up in the right room at the right time, wearing the right thing and saying the right words. When the pool of people available to do that shrinks, even temporarily, the system has to adapt. And according to royal insiders cited in various reports, that adaptation is happening right now, in real time, largely out of public view. Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, has been particularly active during this period. While Edward was reportedly recovering in the UK, Sophie was carrying out engagements in Somalia as part of her international humanitarian work. This is a woman who has quietly become one of the hardest-working members of the royal family, and sources suggest she has been holding a significant portion of the Edinburgh household's public commitments together during this stretch. I have to say, and this is just my personal read, Sophie does not get nearly enough credit for what she does. She has transformed from someone who was seen as fairly peripheral in royal circles to someone who is genuinely carrying weight for the institution. And the fact that she was out in Somalia while Edward was resting in England tells you something about the level of commitment she brings to this role. Now, I want to be clear about something, because responsible coverage matters here. None of the reporting suggests that Prince Edward is facing anything serious health-wise. According to insiders cited by multiple outlets, he is recovering well and is expected to return to his full schedule. One source was quoted as saying Edward is, and I am paraphrasing here, absolutely fine and set to resume duties with renewed energy. That is reassuring, and I genuinely believe it. But the broader picture, the cumulative effect of multiple absences, the reshuffling of royal schedules, the quiet pressure on a smaller and smaller group of working royals to represent the crown, that is the story that deserves attention. Because what we are watching, according to analysts who study the institution closely, is the British monarchy in a genuine moment of transition. King Charles is redefining who counts as a working royal. The Andrew situation has permanently removed one piece from the board. William and Catherine are building toward their eventual central role. And right now, in this in-between moment, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh are arguably more important to the functioning of the monarchy than most people realize. Every time Edward steps back, even briefly, even for completely legitimate reasons, it creates a visible gap. And visible gaps in an institution that runs on symbolism are never truly small. What I find genuinely fascinating about all of this is how the palace manages these moments. The communications are careful, the explanations are measured, and the photos released to the public are always strategically reassuring. Edward looking healthy at the theater the day after missing a ceremony. Sophie smiling in Somalia while the palace quietly notes that Edward is resting. These are not accidents. This is a communications operation that has been running for centuries, and it is very, very good at its job. So where does that leave us? According to all available reporting, Prince Edward is fine. His absences have been explained. The palace has been transparent to the extent that royal palaces are ever truly transparent, which, let us be honest, is a pretty low bar. But the pattern of absences, the reshuffling behind the scenes, and the quiet but unmistakable pressure on the remaining working royals to hold the line, that is the real protocol that has been triggered. Not a crisis, not a scandal, but a steady, ongoing recalibration of one of the world's most watched institutions, happening right now, mostly behind closed doors, with occasional glimpses offered to the public through carefully managed press releases and Instagram posts. And if you ask me, not officially, just my honest read, the most interesting chapter of the modern British monarchy is not what we can see. It is everything that is quietly being decided in the rooms we are not allowed into. That is the secret protocol, and based on everything sources are reporting, it is very much in motion.